Hey everybody, we're back. 49, big 4-9. Welcome. Thank you, Elijah, for being here. We've been having some good conversation today. So we're talking, I don't necessarily, we can use the name if we want, but we talked about somebody that
was a principal.
That was and went all the way up to superintendent, right?
Yeah.
And now he's been, I don't know if I call it a demotion, but a reassignment to the classroom.
Reassignment.
Which I don't think he probably. Where's he at? Do you know?
I have no idea. I just heard it through the vine that he's back in the classroom. Okay. Yeah. Which he was never in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know. I met him when I was an assistant principal. He was an assistant principal somewhere. I don't remember, but. I always liked Vern. I thought he was a friendly guy.
He's a good guy. He played the system to his advantage.
Yeah, maybe he used his whiteness. I don't know.
What he did, you think I could have got away with?
Well, no, I know that. But I was thinking in our last conversation in number 48 about how much of a gem you are, and how much a lack of appreciation that OCD had as far as a master educator.
I don't work for appreciation. I know. I got the paycheck, but helped my kids go to college, kept a roof over their head, fed them, and that was all I needed to have. Those people were not paying attention to me because I didn't fit into what they wanted done. I wasn't a conniver. I wasn't I was honest.
Was your blackness a factor?
A little bit, because one of the things that they couldn't figure out why my programs were so successful. They figured I was cutting corners somewhere. I was doing something because that's what they were doing.
Right, they based their judgment on their own self. And which is what judgment it really is. You judge somebody based on where you stand, and you make an presumption, and it's not always accurate.
Just think the average teacher in our system was running anywhere between 10 to 15 kids a day, and we were running 60 kids a day. Okay? We were managing 60 kids a day, running a successful program, supplying services. Okay, and
multiple services, not just the academics.
But also the thing is that I wasn't running around saying, "Look at me." And see that's what they didn't like.
What didn't they like about it?
Well, because when you say going around saying, "Look at me," then they can break you down. Well, see,
is that a weakness? Is that they can find that?
No, it's just that they can knock you down, and then see. By me doing what I did the way I did it, they couldn't knock me down. Okay.
Well, you had your feet firm on the ground. That's the thing.
I didn't complain. Like the time that Vern, I told you he did the newspaper thing, and I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it. The time that
when you were not single gender, but you were over to Harbor Learning Center. Yeah.
And then the other time they did the newspaper thing, and they put Susan in the paper instead of me.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's okay. Okay.
You were okay with that?
Oh yeah. That doesn't stop me from doing my job.
Well, you could show up every day and know you were doing your job.
I did my job. Okay.
You never did. So how much would you say? Think back to when you first started. You initially started. What did you change at all? Was there any transformation as far as your approach, your style?
Everywhere I went, no matter what the situation was, I was successful.
Right.
Okay, because I was student oriented. Right. Okay, and we were there to help students.
Student centered.
Okay.
I always think too, like teaching. So many people are like, it's all about teaching the knowledge, and knowledge is fine, but it's not any good if you don't learn how to apply it, and you don't learn how learn how to think, how to grow, how to
think about this. We had to get the kids to come to school on a regular basis before you can impart knowledge.
Right. Right. Right.
Because you can't impart knowledge if a kid comes once a week.
Mm-mm.
Okay. And our kids came every day.
Right. We were a day school. We wanted independent study.
No, we were a day school.
Contract learning or whatever you want.
We were a day school that had a flexible schedule.
Yeah, I like that.
We were a day school that had a flexible schedule, and we because we you seek time. That was our model for the ADA was seat time. Yeah. Okay, and we didn't dilute our program like they did in what they did in contract learning or independent study or whatever they called it.
Right.
Because people were looking for the easy, I mean, come on now. You had some people that would have the kids come on Monday and Tuesday, and they'd be gone on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You get what I'm saying? I mean, any system can be abused if you want to abuse it.
And some people that's what they're always looking for that.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to. I mean, I always felt like we were service oriented, and to serve you have to serve. You have to be a servant to these students.
I would not be who I was unless the teachers back at McClymonds High School had taken the time to guide me and direct me, even though I was a knucklehead. Mm-hmm. I worked in the cafeteria, the teachers cafeteria. I got to see things, okay? And I was not a very good student because I was a class clown kind of guy, that kind of thing. But my senior year, I really buckled down, and I said, "Damn, this education thing is okay."
What was the light bulb that went
on? She already graduated high school. I barely graduated. If it wasn't for Mr. Catalina, I got a C minus in basic general math. Okay, but at least I had signed up for you go to Oakland City College, and that was a rude awakening there. Playing football, and I thought I could play football. I mean, I couldn't play football until about the fourth game. And after the fourth, I realized that baseball, I made all conference in baseball. Baseball was my game, okay? But I made all conference in baseball. But I had a chance to go down to Tuskegee. I had a chance to sign. I had two things. I had two choices. Either sign pro baseball. I played with Joe Morgan. I played with Rudy May. So I was, but I had a choice. And I wanted to learn. So when I got to Tuskegee, I realized that education was important.
That kind of happened to me in a much smaller scale, but yeah, I was a lost soul. But I played football, and I want to keep playing football. So I go to Cypress College, community college, and play. And but that's when I started taking these classes, and I started really seeing, like you, the light bulb kind of went on about, hey, this is pretty cool learning and stuff. And football kind of slowly, not even slowly, in some regards, just kind of disappeared as an important thing, and it catapulted me into that. I don't know if I would have,
Well, when I got out of the Marine Corps and I get to Santa Ana, that's when that's when I went out for football, and this is when they asked me, was I related to Willie Steele? And I said, yeah, that's my dad. And they said, oh, okay, we're from San Diego. Well, okay. And I just said, I told him, I said, I don't wish, I haven't played them, I don't wish to start because, I looked at the politics of Santa Ana at the time, and Eddie Stewart was there, and I was watching this one guy who quarterback his dad was there every day, watching the practices, so, I started saying, woo, and because
your dad really wasn't part of that.
No. I haven't seen I saw my dad when I came back from Vietnam, and because in my adult life, I think I only saw my dad about 5 times.
Really?
Yeah. Because he was on his own journey.
Right. I know you said that
before. On his own journey. But we talked. We did do a lot of talking. But he was on his own.
Well, how was the experience in Vietnam? How did that play in your life as far as creating who you are, who you were then, and now where you are today?
Basically, what I learned from Vietnam is that you need to you don't become friendly with people because people are dying. Yeah. People are dying, and
And that's something I don't think most of us even have a clue about. And what that must be.
Me being a cook, I'm watching people go to the chow line in the morning and they're dead in the afternoon.
I cannot even imagine.
So
what that must be like.
I stayed with the food service people, and we stayed close together.
I remember. I was part of this. I don't know if you remember. I did that Youth Developers Institute thing where I went to Brazil and there was a cohort. These were a cohort of us, and we would meet every 6 months. So there was a really nice man, and he'd been in Vietnam. And we visited Washington, D.C., and we were touring around, and that was the wall had just been made. And I saw him, I watched him, and he was looking at the wall. He was kind of slowly looking at the names, and he was crying, like just really crying. And I kind of, I got to be honest, I barely appreciated it, but I did understand to a point.
When I came back, it took me about a year and a half to adjust, but the thing that that was important that I didn't have anybody. I didn't hang on to anybody, and nobody hung on to me
because of that.
When I left Vietnam, I left Vietnam. I left everything behind.
Is that how you survived?
That's how I survived.
Did you ever suffer from any kind of PTSD?
I don't sleep. I sleep in the daytime.
Yeah, you told me that once. Yeah, you told me that once, and I took that to heart as far as
That's why I was able to go. Why I was able to work at night.
You could do it because you had to.
Yeah, but like you said, I was one of the fortunate ones. I came back in one piece and a half of mine.
Good statement there. Yeah. Interesting. And again, that's such an instrumental part of your life, but you don't talk a lot about that.
No, because it does no good to talk about something that most people won't even experience.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
and I will be the first to get that.
You don't have to. I had to worry about whether I was going to get drafted going to college. I had to make a decision. Yeah. And I made the decision I needed to go into the military before I got drafted. Okay. I enlisted.
And was that a kind of a state or a status you were in at that point that made you kind of decide?
Well, I had said to myself when I was in high school, if I can go to college for 2 years, then I would enlist in the military, which I did.
You did 2 years before you went in?
Yeah, I went 1 year to Oakland City College, and another year at Tuskegee.
And you never thought about a deferment or anything like that? Never came in your mind?
My father went. He got drafted right in the middle of his career.
And Olympian, gold medalist. Yeah, and I think that's. I really don't think non-military people understand that.
Well, he was a freshman. He's in the Hall of Fame. Think about just how good he was. He'd be in the Hall of Fame in football and track at San Jose State.
Right. Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame in China, and then San Diego. That's where he ended up back at San Diego State. And no.
Do you think those experiences with him played into his kind of once he got out, where his path led him because of some of that experiences that he had?
Well, he used to tell me I went to the Olympics and I can't even buy a cup of coffee in San Diego.
So he understood.
That's why he got me out of San Diego. Okay, because San Diego is not a good place for black people.
And you're thankful for him.
Oh man, so thankful. 10 years old, my world changed. my world changed. I'd have been maybe I could have gone through on the name, but you never know. You don't want to be going through on the name. You want to get, and this is what I'm so happy about in my life is that all the things that I accomplished on my own.
So you were really a prodigy, but you chose not to use that as a grounds for anything you did.
I earned everything that I did.
Right, and that's got to be a sense of pride, right?
Well, yeah, I earned it. When I went to Cal Poly, I went from down there to captain of the football team, and they voted me captain of the football team. I didn't ask them to. They voted me captain.
What do you think they saw in you that?
Well, I was there, man. I was there. I was a hard worker.
Yeah.
Okay. I gave it.
Yeah.
I remember the time that they were gonna. I went to a meeting and I was late. The one time I was late for football practice, and they were having a meeting on campus about they were having some kind of uprising or whatever, any protest or something. And I went to see what was going on because, like I told my coach, I said, hey man, I'm a grown man. I have a wife and a child that come on this campus, okay? And the football team, he kicked me off the football team, and the team said, we ain't playing. We ain't playing.
How many black guys on that team?
Oh, shit. Henry Bradford. The three black guys were captains. Henry Bradford, he was from San Diego. I went to elementary school with him. And then the other guy ended up being a counselor at Mount Sac.
Okay.
But there was maybe about 5 or 6 of us.
Out of a 50 years.
Yeah, 56. Yeah. And I led by example. I just went.
Well, that's an honor. I mean, that's really an honor that they chose you and that they saw what they needed or what they wanted or what they saw was something of value for a person to be a leader like that. And that's.
I led by example. I gave everything. I prayed when I was hurt and everything. I went out there and did my job.
Right.
Okay. I mean, it just the thing that I learned working with my uncle, and he was, is that when you earn things in life, you can't take it away from you. Right. See, like I have all degrees, they can't take it. They can't take my bachelor's, my AA degree, my bachelor's degree, my master's degree. They can't take it away from me because I earned it. Nobody gave it to me. I went to school. I get off, drive from down at Joplin, and get over to Fullerton. Get there at 4:00 and go from classes from 4 to 10. Okay.
Again, my life parallels yours on a much smaller degree, but yeah, same thing. I got married young. I got that job working as a night man at the Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall.
Yeah.
So I worked 10 at night till 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
Get home about 7.
Yeah.
Quick shower, and then I rode my bike because we moved into a little mobile home about a couple miles from Cal State Fullerton.
Mm-hmm.
Jumped on my bike, rode up State College, took my 4 classes, came home, took a nap.
So you graduated from Fullerton?
Yeah, I graduated Cal State Fullerton with a bachelor's degree.
That's why I got my master's.
Yeah, and then I coached. I was coaching my freshman. I went back to my old high school and coached freshman football. I had a really fun time doing that. And still had the,
Why didn't you when you left? What happened when you was coaching? Why didn't you stay? What happened?
Well, so yeah, and again, what happened was that I coached when there was still some of the coaches that had coached me.
Okay.
So I had a relationship with them, and then they brought in a whole new staff.
Okay.
And he brought in all his people, and he still said there was a place for me, but I felt like
yeah.
So
when I bring in a whole new staff, you gotta go.
Yeah. So I left, and then obviously still wanted to coach. So I coached at Catella. I coached at Troy as a walk on. I was still working at the Rio Contigua. Yeah. And that was still my plan was to lead. That's why I left, because I got that job at Catella, which was a nightmare. job, the coaching, and that's when when I got riffed, I realized I'm done. This isn't my thing. I got my own kids. I'm coaching other people's kids. Right. I want to coach my own kids. Yeah. So I got back in. You can say what you want about Paul Hirsch, but he was my principal when I left, and he was my principal when he brought me back. No hard feelings. Yeah, he said, nothing's changed. You sure you want to come back? I said, absolutely.
Him and Van
Horn, yeah.
Van Horn, they tried to fire me.
I know. I know that. Yeah. I know that. And so
he said, when you're not coming to work, you need to call me if you're sick. Mm-hmm. I said, no, I don't need to call you if I'm sick. I call the thing. No, he tried to set me up 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I know. I remember vaguely some of the interactions you had with him and Van Horn and those people, but so yeah, that's one of the reasons that, and a buddy of mine that I grew up with playing football in high school, and then he was at Cypress. I saw him. We lost track of him, but we reconnected during the last couple of years, and he'd asked me, why did you stop playing football? And I tried to go back, and of course that's when my dad left and left my mom, so I had to go to work, and then it was just, once you leave, it's just so hard to get back in. I mean, I'm not making excuses. There are days when I really think I wish I'd have gone and stuck it out. I might have got another couple more years of playing.
I tried to play baseball. I couldn't do it. Okay, I mean that was I was a decent football player, but I was an outstanding baseball player.
Right.
But football, I got stopped. So like I told him there, I said, all I want you to do is I need a scholarship. And then probably one of the best decisions I made was that right after football season, the guy came from Northern Arizona, and he said, boom, boom, we're ready to go. We want you. And I said, well, no, I'm not going to go. I'm gonna.
That's hard to turn down.
The one thing I needed to do, and I said, this is me. I needed to see if I could still play baseball. I
hear you.
And I got that done, and then I graduated. And, I got the scholarly to Cal Poly, and that was it. All I needed was my AA degree, and I got that.
So we've talked about this many times, but education really trumped everything.
Everything.
And look at your accomplishments and what you've done.
Everything, and because I saw my father, who was short on his education, and what happened to him in his life. Okay, because one thing they can't do. If you're educated in the system, they can't close you out.
Yeah.
And see, they would say, well, every time I remember they would say, oh, here's a counseling position open, blah 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 blah. I said, well, I'm open, and then they would change the specs.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I said, well,
move the goalposts.
Every time they moved the goalposts, I was right there.
I'm knocking on the door.
I said, yeah, I got a credential. I got all these things that you're looking for.
So they wanted to take you out, but they couldn't. You're too tough.
That's why the best thing that I learned from my father was that when I was in college, I got all the certificates and all the things that I might, even though I didn't need it right now, but I needed it down the road. Okay.
You kept your eye on the ball as a baseball player.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. And I was hitting. I wasn't hitting to the fences. I was hitting singles.
Yeah, that's all it takes. So get on base, baby. Get on base.
I was hitting singles.
And you're still going to score a run.
Yeah, Wee Willie Keeler. That's what he did. Wee Willie Keeler. But the thing, when I think about this, education has given me the opportunity to have the life that I had.
Yeah. And what a life it is, man.
Oh, man, it's been a wonderful life.
So, like you say, Jimmy Stewart, it's a wonderful life.
It's been a wonderful life.
You never felt like you had to jump off the bridge?
No, my children are happy. Yeah. They're think about this. They're planning for retirement.
At 50 years old. It's awesome.
But they all have careers. Mm-hmm. And that's the wonderful thing about it. I never had to pay a bill for them. Got their own properties and everything like that. So
we've talked about that's the proof is in the pudding, and the pride that you have for them, and they stand on their own.
And they still, they still come around me.
Well, I think they recognize what you did for them, and Brenda too. I'm not going to say Brenda wasn't an influence; it still is. But you guys, even though you weren't married, and that came out in our podcast with her, that you guys were a good team of getting those girls.
Well, we love our children.
Right, perfect.
And that was the most important thing, getting our children to the next level, and each one of them had their own educational experience.
Right.
And
they're all different in what they did and where they went, but it's all revolve around that education.
And they all have the master's degree. Right. I mean, you think about, when you're a parent and you say, "Damn, I got everybody got a master's degree." So I'm the dummy of the bunch.
Oh, stop that! Stop that!
But I asked him one time. I asked him. I said, "What made you, go to college?" He said, "Oh, they said we were going to college. We watched you do what you did. So, but we were going to college. The only problem we had was which college we were going to go to."
Right, they had to pick college. Right. There was no question ever. And that's the thing with my kids. We never told them you have to go to college. We just told them, if you're going to go, you got to work. They always had to have. We were going to support them. But they had to have a little job. I don't care how many. Brad, when he first moved out, he got a job at the Boys and Girls Club in San Marcos, and all the kids would. He played ping pong with him, and he I think that opened up his eyes to a whole different world, a different kind of kid. And
when you go to the Boys and Girls. When you go to the Boys and Girls, I grew up in the Boys Club, okay? And no matter where we moved to, I had my little card and everything. Went there, but you got a chance to play basketball,
right?
Baseball, whatever. Right. That was your first exposure,
right? Because
back then, the Little League wasn't. We didn't have Little League. They had a league down in the city. They had all these different fields where. Frankie O Field is, and where the Raiders first played the games. That was where they would take. They had about 10 fields, and they would every Saturday. They started at 9 o'clock in the morning and go until 4 o'clock in the evening on each field. Guys playing ball, little kids playing ball from all over the city.
Yeah. It's a fun thing to watch. It really is, because you watch these little players and you just think, they're getting this exposure, and hopefully the parents aren't messing them up too much.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, I'm not being negative. Back in them days, parents had to go to work, and they couldn't get out work at 3:30 to watch a football game.
Right.
No, and I was thankful for that.
Right.
I was able to go and carry my load.
Right. What a life!
Oh man!
What a life! Well, we're wrapping up 49, so we're gonna save up 50, and we'll do that soon.
Okay.
And I appreciate again the time.
Man, it's getting. I think we're loosening up.
Yeah, we're loosening up, huh? Yeah. No script.
I
think Elijah thinks we need a script. But,
do we need a script, Elijah? No, but I think it's important for us to share our experiences in life,
right,
and how we think and what we think about. Because people.
Well, let me put it this. Let me close it with this one. I'm 10 years younger than you, so in 10 years I'll be where you are now, and I just hope that I can sit where you're sitting and still have the same kind of outlook that you have and the experiences. And again, I think I have similar ones, not to the degree that you did, but certainly a smaller version. But again, it's been an honor knowing you all these years. So what a great time we can do these podcasts.
Well, you just have to. Every day you learn something.
Yeah.
Okay, every day you cry.
Right. You said that. Every day you cry, and every day you laugh.
And because you don't take yourself so serious.
Yeah, that's right. Well, like you said, Larry and Al, Search for Truth. We're out. And until next time, my brother.
Okay.
Take care. Take care, Elijah. Thank you again. And thanks for all the listeners.
Okay.
Have a great day. Bye.
those of you that are out there listening, subscribe to our page so that you can get the notifications of when we're going to record again.